And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Smith versus DeSaint Pellegrino. Step forward, please.
Teresa Smith is suing her neighbors, Annelle DeSaint and Stephen Pellegrino, for vet bills she incurred while caring for their dachshund.
Miss Smith, you and the defendants were neighbors?
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time that you made an agreement with the defendants to doggy sit for their dog while they were going away on vacation. However, the dog got sick and you took the dog to the vet. And the dog required some serious intervention, which the vet did. And Ms. DeSaint and Mr. Pellegrino refused to pay the vet bill. They say that they did not authorize you to take their dog to the vet. The dog was that sick. They should have put the dog down, right?
Yes.
You paid the vet bill. You want the money back.
Yes, Your Honor, please.
What day did you start to take care of the dog?
I started to take care of the dog on a Tuesday.
You remember the date?
Let me look at my papers, please.
Sure. While she's looking, where were you going?
Going to San Diego. It was on June 5th.
How long were you going to be away?
3 days.
Tell me what kind of dog you had.
It was a Dachshund, I think.
What do you mean a dachshund, you think?
Because the neighbor gave it to us. It was a mutt, basically.
How old was it when you got it?
We don't know. We got it from our neighbor, and they gave us a couple of dogs because, I don't know, we just took it for the kids.
Whose kids?
Our kids.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
Do you work?
Yes, I'm a sign directional.
What is that?
Well, you know, the people that hold a sign on the corner, and they tell you where the new homes are being sold.
And what do you do?
I'm in construction.
So a neighbor gave you 2 dogs.
The first one, it was starting to get sick, so we had taken it to the vet. And the vet said that you should have it put down because it had a bad liver. So a little bit later, after that, the neighbor had to get rid of some more dogs. And so they asked us if we wanted another dog.
Was it a puppy or was it a grown dog?
Yeah, it was still a
puppy.
puppy. Yeah.
And you had it for a month.
Yes.
Your 3-year-old like it?
Yes.
Yes.
Was it housebroken?
No.
No.
Were you taking your children with you to San Diego?
Yes.
Where were you leaving the puppy?
We left it at our house with a bowl of food, and we asked if she can
Just
come
a second.
over.
At your house in a bowl of food, but the dog isn't housebroken.
Well, in the outside.
We have a
yard,
fenced-off area with a
fenced-off
yard.
yard.
So you were leaving the puppy outside?
Yes.
Is that where the puppy stayed when you were home?
Yes.
Yes.
It has a dog house out there.
And you live in California?
Yes.
And this was in June?
Not cold weather.
Yeah, it wasn't cold weather at all.
So what happened, Miss Smith?
So I went over to take care of the dog. The first day I got there, its water dish was basically just the cup off the top of a thermos, and it was completely dry. So I filled it up, and the dog drank like it had had water in almost days. And it just drank and drank and drank and drank, and it didn't touch its food. I went back that evening. I bought another water dish for it and made sure it had plenty of water. It still didn't touch its food. This went on until Thursday. It never touched its food. I even went over there one day and I even put down a can of canned dog food because usually because it's stinky, a dog will eat it. And he didn't touch it. By the time I went back that evening, it was just a dried, hard lump. So Thursday, I was able to go over and I thought, okay, maybe he's just lonely, missing the family, so I'll spend some time with him. And he just drug himself out where he was sleeping, and you could see all of his bones by then, and his nose was dry and warm.
Okay. So what did you do when you saw the dog in that condition?
Well, when I saw the dog that was that sick, I thought, this dog is going to die. And before they had left, I had asked them, before you leave, do you have an emergency phone number? And they refused to give me one because they just
They didn't give you one.
Right.
They didn't refuse. They just didn't give you one.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I took the dog to the vet on my own because the dog was so horribly sick.
You have the vet report?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Can I say something?
Sure.
How can the dogs be in bones within 3 days that we were gone?
I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm going to read what the expert says.
Okay.
Well, the vet said your dog is very dehydrated and lethargic, raspy, lung sounds bilateral, parvo. Dog had parvo. That's a very serious diagnosis.
That's how the dog would get sick, so skinny so fast, it would be throwing up.
That's a very serious diagnosis. That's how it got so sick. That should answer your question. On what date did you get home?
On the 8th.
And she told you that the dog was in the...
Well, there was a note on our door.
That the dog was in intensive care. So what did you do?
I called her, and she told me the dog was in intensive care, and basically it was going to cost, like, a lot of money to keep it there every day, so we called the pound. And we told them, well, is there any way we can take the dog off life support because we cannot afford this? As bad as it seems, we would have probably have utilized it. But They told us we couldn't get the dog out of the pet shelter because they didn't have no paperwork that it was our dog. They only had paperwork from her. And we called her and I told her, well, we were going to have to utilize the dog. And she didn't answer or say anything about it. So then we called the pound again and we told them, well, is there any way we can get this dog? And then they said Teresa already picked the dog up. And then we haven't heard from her for around 6 months. We haven't talked to her.
Just a second. The dog got sick before you came home. And it wasn't as a result of any negligence on her part. The dog had parvo. What would you expect her to do?
Well, she already knew that we didn't have money.
No, not what she knew, not what she surmised. What would a reasonable person, under the circumstances, be expected to do when a dog that's left in their care is clearly violently ill and they can't get in touch with the dog's owner? What would you expect them to do?
Yeah, I understand that. That she had no number to reach us. The thing was that when the dog was released, we tried to get a hold of him and maybe put the bill under our name so we could pay payments on that dog. And we couldn't get a hold of her.
Your wife just told me you wanted to put the dog in the pound to have it put down.
Well,
That's what your wife told me.
At this point, I really didn't want to hassle with my neighbors. Hassle with the neighbor. So I kind of wanted to say, okay, the dog's already in the pound. What is done is done. She was just trying to be a good neighbor by taking care of the dog, and taking it there. If it got sick, I would have took someone else's dog to the pound.
Absolutely right.
To the vet also. The thing was, when the dog was released, she had never contacted us and not returned our dog to us and said, here's a bill, can you pay this bill? Trying to be neighborly instead of just taking us straight to court.
She didn't take you straight to court. This happened in June.
Well, we haven't seen the dog in 6 months.
We have tried to talk to her, and I had left messages. I went to her door, and no one had answered.
Did you go to the vet and say, I will assume responsibility for this bill?
They didn't even want to talk.
No, listen to me. I will assume responsibility for this bill. This is my dog. All she had to do was say that because she didn't want your dog. She didn't steal your dog. Don't make excuses.
Right.
And all I said to you was, under the circumstances, since she had no way to contact you, she acted appropriately in taking the dog to the vet and providing whatever care the vet said the dog needed in order to survive. Because otherwise, you would be standing on that side, and you know what you'd be telling me? My children loved the dog, and she didn't take good care of it, and we would have paid the vet bill. She should have taken the dog to the vet. Instead, she let the dog die.
We would not have.
No?
I would have, if she would have came to me with a vet bill, I would have taken care of that vet bill.
Well, good. She came to you with a vet bill now.
But she never
for the
returned our
plaintiff an
dog
amount
to
of
us.
$550. That's all. Step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You would have definitely paid for that bill.
I had contacted him. I told him the dog was in the vet.
And I would have definitely got my dog back.
And he responded, if I had been here, I would have let the dog die.
20-year-old Holly Corbella is suing her former high school classmate, 21-year-old Summerlin Gray, for vandalizing her car. Summerlin claims Holly tried to run her over.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 358 on the calendar in the matter of Corbella versus Gray. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Corbella, according to what I've put together from your complaint, you knew the defendant from high school. You weren't friends, but you knew her from high school. And it is your claim that she vandalized your car. She vandalized your car by kicking it with you in it. Correct. This was after some sort of an altercation at a place where she works. The defendant says that if she touched your car or came into contact with your car, it was because you were trying to run her over. And if there was any damage to your car, it was as a result of that. So, how long ago did you graduate from high school?
2004.
And you?
2004, ma'am.
And you weren't friends?
No.
Were you enemies?
Not really. We just didn't really talk.
Didn't talk, didn't care for each other, so you weren't friends, you weren't enemies, you just knew each other?
Yes.
When did this incident happen with your car?
November 10th, 2005.
Where?
In Crinkles, which is her parents' store.
Crinkles?
Yeah.
What kind of a store is it?
It's like a type 7-Eleven type store.
Okay, so tell me what happened on November 10th.
Me and my boyfriend, we went to the store, I believe, to get cigarettes.
To the store that her parents owned?
Yeah, which I didn't even know that her parents owned the store. So we went in. I went in with him to buy the cigarettes. I knew the guy at the cash register, so I was talking to him.
Who was that?
I believe his name was Dan. I knew him from, like, high school. Like, I hadn't seen him in years. And then I just told him that I was going to go sit in the car because there was a line to listen to music. So I went in the car.
And?
He was in the store, and she came over.
Stand up, sir.
Yes.
Your last name is?
Lord, L-O-R-D.
Okay, so you were standing on line?
Yes.
She went back to sit in the car?
Yes.
What happened in the store?
I was standing in line, and she had came up to the register talking to the guy that she had said hello to, Dan, I believe. When she started talking, she started saying a lot of things about her. I don't want her in my store, like very bad verbal things, and she didn't know I was with her.
What kind
Could I say it on TV? Just, I don't want that my store, this and that. I don't, you know, she shouldn't be here. If she ever comes in again, I'm going to kick her, stuff like that. And I basically, she didn't know I was with her, and I was in the back of the line. And then eventually I was like, do you speak to all your customers like that? And then she basically, you know, started yelling at me, and we got into an argument.
Well, what did she say to you?
She was just like, who are you? And I said, well, I'm Holly Corbella's boyfriend. And she's like, yeah. Well, she's like, you can get out of my store, too. I said, oh, this is your store? And she's like, yeah, it's my store. I said, you own this store, and this is how you respect your customers, by yelling like that.
Okay, so you had a verbal altercation with this young lady.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Basically, it kept going on, and then the guy at the register tried calming her down, calming me down, because we were both arguing, and it started to come outside. She came out to me outside, right in the front
Did you
door.
leave?
Yes, I left.
Did you pay for your cigarettes?
Yes.
Paid for your cigarettes and you walked out?
Yes.
Okay. Now, he's paid for his cigarettes. Is that right, Miss Gray?
No, ma'am.
He didn't pay?
No, ma'am. He
Really?
didn't purchase anything that night, ma'am, and if I may, I will
Just
start...
a second. So
Okay.
he didn't purchase anything. Are you saying you didn't walk out with your cigarettes?
I purchased a 6-pack of Heineken and a pack of cigarettes. Marlboro.
And you paid for them?
Cash.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Miss Gray. I believe him.
Okay. Well,
I believe that he waited online because he wasn't leaving without those cigarettes and he wasn't leaving without the beer. So I believe...
well, why would anybody,
Just
right?
a second. Just a second. Because he's waited online. He's already argued with you. So he may have been disgusted with your store, but he wasn't leaving without his items. So I believe he bought them and he paid for them.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Now, you want to tell me what problem you had with Miss Corbella?
Well, that night, ma'am, Miss Corbella had walked into the food side of my store, and her boyfriend had walked into the liquor side of my store. Holly seen me. She looked directly in my eyes. I didn't say anything out loud to where any customers heard anything, and I pulled my brother aside, who is the manager, and I said, I don't want her in this store. I don't trust her. I've had altercations with her from stealing and hearing...
I thought you said that you didn't have any bad contact with her.
No, I don't.
So what do you mean?
Because my friend has gotten in trouble from her stealing, whatever.
What do you mean your friends got into trouble with her from stealing?
We were never friends, never liked each other.
I
We
gotcha.
had this one friend that was friends with me and friends with her.
Yes.
My friend that was also friends with both of us got in trouble with her stealing.
Just a second. So your friend was arrested for stealing, for theft.
Yes.
And according to you, she was with this friend when she got arrested for stealing?
Yes.
Okay. Was she arrested for stealing?
No.
Just your friend was arrested for stealing?
With her, yes.
No. Listen to me.
Yes, she wasn't arrested. No, yes, my friend was
Just
arrested.
your friend was arrested for
Yes.
stealing. Now, he's on his way out the door. Why did you follow him out the door? Look at me.
I followed him out the door because the altercation that happened inside my parents' store, he left mad, and she actually was inside the store when the fighting was going on. So she heard everything and she seen everything. I followed him out of this store because my car was in the parking lot, and I didn't want anything happening to my car, anything in the parking lot, because
Now.
they threatened me.
No, listen to me. Listen to me. Very carefully. There was a line when Mr. Lord was waiting to pay for his cigarettes and his beer, which means there were other customers in the store.
Right.
How many other customers would you say were in the store?
There were only about 3, ma'am.
And is your store a standalone store, or are there other stores in a shopping mall? Or
It's a standalone, ma'am.
how many people were in the store after Mr. Lord left the store?
The same 3, ma'am.
So that there were at least 3 other cars out there. Is
Right.
that right? Listen to me carefully. Plus your car, right?
Plus my car, yes.
And you hadn't seen Miss Corbella since high school, right? And you never met Mr. Lord, right?
Right.
So how do they know which is your car and which is a car
Holly
that
Corbella
belongs?
knows well what my car looks like. I've had the same car since high school, and she's seen my car outside her friend's car and me get into it a couple of times and drive away.
Great.
So
Did she
knows-
just listen to me? Did she ever hurt your car before?
We've never had an altercation.
Just listen to me. Did
No.
she ever hurt your
No,
car
ma'am.
before?
No.
What happened when she followed you outside?
We were still arguing. She told me, you know, I'm going to kick her if she doesn't leave. So I walked up into the car. As I got in the car, no lie, the size of her, I was surprised how strong she came at the car and kicked the car in right where I was. As I closed the door, she came and kicked it. There was no running over her. Then she even went in front of the car as we were leaving. And Holly was all nervous, so she was trying to get around her. The car was already kicked.
You have a picture of the car?
Yes.
I'd like to see
I have
it,
a couple
please.
pictures, actually.
Were you there, sir?
I was outside smoking a cigarette, Your Honor.
I don't remember.
Oh, this is a kick, Miss Gray. This is a kick, my dear.
This is not a kick.
Yeah, this is a kick, Miss Hot Temper.
Okay.
This is a kick. This is not I fell into your car accidentally. This is a kick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't want to say anything, do you?
I'll say something if you want me to.
Do I want you to? No.
And later today,
The forgery was in 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you incarcerated?
New Year's Eve, 05.
Took them 3 years to figure it out?
Took him 3 years to catch me, man.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Holly Corbella says former high school classmate Summerlin Gray vandalized her car. Summerlin says Holly tried to run her over after a confrontation with her boyfriend.
Does this look like I fell into the car accidentally, or does this look like somebody kicked it?
It was a running
fell into it several times.
Looks like I fell into it several times. Got a hot temper, madam. You can't do that. You can't vandalize somebody else's car.
If somebody comes into my family business, he had nothing to do with what I said to her because he didn't even hear me.
What does that have to do with kicking his car?
He wanted to throw a beer case at me over my family counter is what the first threat was. And then, yes, I did go outside to make sure everything was okay in the parking lot. He did not get directly in the car. He stood in my face threatening me to where the point my brother had to come outside and separate us.
Listen to me. What does that have to do with kicking her car?
I didn't kick her car, ma'am.
You did.
I flew backwards. No, I did not.
You don't want to say anything, do you?
I'll say something if you want me to.
Do I want you to? No. Could I have an estimate, please, to fix this car where Miss Hot Temper kicked your car?
And ma'am,
your parents leave you in charge of that business often?
Actually, I'm not in charge, ma'am.
Well, it's good that at least they have some brains. They don't leave you in charge. But does somebody monitor the two of you in that store?
He doesn't work there, ma'am. He was waiting for me to get off.
They don't trust you to work in the store. They trust her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $940. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Do not come in my family's business and start a problem for no reason.
Come up with a case like that to make an excuse that she ran into the car was just absurd.
I could have just told the manager to simply ask her to leave, but her boyfriend insisted in carrying on the situation.
She's just mad that she lost her temper, kicked the car, and now she has to pay for it.
I don't want a theft in my family store, and that's the point of my story.
I don't steal. I've never stolen anything before in my life.
Because of her past. I know her past.
I've never been arrested. I would never damage her car.
They will never be allowed in the store again.
I'm just glad that she gets what she deserves, and I finally get to get my car fixed.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mims Gray versus Gilmore. Step forward.
19-year-old Brittany Mims Gray is suing her former friend, Samantha Gilmore, for the return of money she paid to go on a cruise. Samantha says Brittany backed out at the last minute.
Miss Mims Gray.
Yes.
Miss Gilmore was a friend of yours. You had been friends for a long time, according to what I read in your complaint. A group of girls decided to go on a trip. Where were you going?
We were going on a Mexican cruise.
For how many days?
A week.
And what was the cost to each girl?
It was $325 each.
Very reasonable for a whole week.
Yes.
Did they feed you on this trip for $325 for a week?
I actually don't know. I didn't go.
Do they feed you?
Yes, they do.
In any event, you paid Miss Gilmore your $325.
Yes.
She was making the arrangements. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
19.
Am I correct that someone in the party had to be 21 in order for the girls to go?
Yes.
What you tell me in your complaint is that one of the girls, I believe her name was Ashley, was the 21-year-old, she backed out.
Yes.
So now you have a predicament. You've paid your $325, as have other girls, and unless you found someone else who was 21 years old, you couldn't go.
Yes.
So according to you, you waited for a while to see if somebody else was going to go and somebody else was going to go, and nothing happened, so you made other plans for that period of time. That's what you say. And according to you, Miss Gilmore decided to take her brother.
Yes, well, actually...
Decided to take her brother. He was going to pay for himself. And his brother had a friend whose name was?
Gaius.
Gaius?
Gaius Mike. He goes by Mike.
Good. His name was Mike. Mike went on your ticket.
Yes.
And you want the money.
Yes.
Now, didn't Mike pay?
No.
Why not?
Because we had made oral agreement that Mike was going to pay after the cruise, but Brittany showed up at my house the day before we left saying that she wanted it then.
Just a minute. Who did Mike make the arrangement with? With you?
With me. He made with me and she made it with me.
Just a second. So Mike made the arrangement with you that he was going to pay for the trip.
Yes.
And you told her that Mike was paying for the trip. That was your agreement with him.
Yes.
Now she's suing you because you told her you're going to get your money for this ticket. That's what you told her.
Yes.
Go get the money from Mike. She has no way of suing him because they did not have an agreement. The agreement was between the two of you. You have a cause of action against him if he breached that agreement and didn't give you the money.
Yes, but since she had come to my house saying that she wanted the money earlier than she had expected, I figured if she felt that she needed the money before, even though he wasn't able to provide it for her, she should have called the travel agent herself and said that, because what she said was she wanted her ticket or the money.
Madam.
Ma'am.
She could have done this and she would have done that, and if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that chair. She had an agreement with you, and the agreement was you were going to give her back her money because your brother and his friend were going on this trip with you. And if the friend stiffed you, sue him. He went, he had a good time. I assume he ate, right? Well, I'm sure his company wasn't that terrific that entitled him to a free ride, right? Right, Mr. Gilmore? You wouldn't give him a free ride.
Ma'am, she canceled out at the very last minute.
Are you following me? Your daughter made an agreement with her that she would get her money back. She has to do that. Now, since she did not gain anything herself, perhaps, unless she likes Mike, she has an absolute right to turn around and sue Mike for the cost of the ticket because he promised to pay her, and he didn't. She may have had a lot of other options. She doesn't have to exercise all those other options. She had an agreement with your daughter. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment and the expenses surrounding harassment. Ms. Gilmore, you want to tell me about that?
Yes, when she had decided 4 days we had agreed that Mike was going to take her place. We had made the agreement that he was going to pay after, and she kept constantly calling saying that she wanted the money earlier, and I told her that I didn't have it and that Mike hadn't given it to me, and she kept calling me, harassing me, and showing up. She showed up at my house the day before saying she wanted the money or the ticket, and the option was that she could call the travel agent and say that she wanted her place back because I didn't have the money. So she was called me constantly, leaving me messages, called me when I was at work.
That's what happens when she feels as if you were stiffing her money. That's not a cause of action for harassment. You have to give her the $325, and I suggest that you and your father, when you leave here, you go to small claims court and you sue Mike for the trip that he took, that he enjoyed, that so far he didn't pay for. Right?
Right.
As between the two of you, you owe her $325. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She is getting the money, but hopefully she'll understand that it's from Mike.
I think it's very unfortunate that it had to end like this.
And not me, and that it wasn't worth the friendship, and it wasn't worth going to court over.
I mean, if someone's going to try and ruin a friendship over $300, it's not worth it.
Pamela Marr is suing her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, for the return of money paid for a '97 Chevy Cavalier. Pamela claims Mary illegally titled the vehicle in her name.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 290 on the calendar in the matter of Marr versus Palmucci.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Marr, Miss Palmucci is the girlfriend of your ex-husband.
Yes.
Ex-husband?
Yep. Yes.
Better. According to your complaint, you and your ex-husband got together and decided to purchase a used car for your daughter.
Yes, Ashley.
And each of you was going to contribute $400 to the car.
Yes.
According to you, you gave your husband $400 to buy this car. The car somehow was registered in the name of Miss Palmucci.
Yes.
Your daughter drove the car for a period of time, and then, for whatever reason, Miss Palmucci took the car back.
Yes.
You want your $400 back.
Correct.
Miss Palmucci said it was always her car. Step up, sir. What's your last name?
Marr.
How long have you and your former wife been divorced?
About 4 or 5 years now.
And how long have you and Miss Palmucci been together?
About 7 years.
So I assume you and your wife were separated for a long time before you divorced.
Yes.
How old was your daughter when you left the house?
Like 13, 12, 13, like that.
How old?
10.
10.
They're not always good with dates. Whose idea was it to get this used car for your daughter?
It was my idea.
Where did you find the car?
My niece had it. She was selling the car.
Did your wife, former wife, give you $400 towards the car? Look at me.
It was my understanding that check that she gave me was for the work I did for her at her house a week prior to that. And I gave $200.
How much was the car?
The car altogether was $700.
Did you have a conversation with your former wife with regard to her contributing to the car?
The only conversation that we had was with my daughter and myself and Mary about the car. There was no verbal conversation about the car between me and my ex-wife.
Did you have a conversation with your father about the car?
Yes.
Step up. Tell me your first name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about when you had this conversation with your father about the car.
Well, I was at work and he called and asked me if I wanted to discuss with my mother about getting the car from my cousin.
Well, what specifically did he say?
He said, do you think your mother would go half in buying a car for you? I said, yeah, she would. So I went home and talked to my mother about it, and she said, yeah, that's a good idea.
Did your father tell you how much the car was?
Yes.
How much did he say it was?
$700.
And did you tell your mother how much it was?
Yes.
Who did you give the money to?
My ex-husband.
When?
I gave it to him on July 28th.
Did you give it to him in check or cash?
Check.
How much did you give him?
$400.
Why did you give him $400?
Because I was told that the car was $800, and later on, after I had paid it, my daughter had said it was only $700.
Did you originally tell your mother it was $800?
I think I might have.
What date did you get the car?
July 31st.
July 30th.
And when was the car taken back from you?
It's August 21st.
Mr. Marr, you did have a discussion with your daughter about her mother going half for the car. Unless you're calling your daughter a liar. Are you calling your daughter a liar?
Me and Ashley discussed it. We didn't discuss anything with my ex-wife.
Are you telling me that you didn't say to your daughter you think your mom would go half with me on a used car for you?
No, it didn't take place, that conversation.
Really?
Yep.
Tell me the work that you did for your ex-wife that you thought she was paying you for.
I put a liner in the pool and a skimmer also.
Did you arrive at a price with her?
No, it wasn't. We didn't compromise the price.
Well, how much did you spend for the liner?
I didn't spend for anything. She bought the liner and I put it in. I installed it and the skimmer.
How long did it take you?
Half a day, about 4 or 5 hours.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Marr, is you want me to believe, sir, that you thought that this $400 was your labor in putting in the half a day?
Yeah, that I paid my brother-in-law with the other $200. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though you had not come up with an amount with your wife for what the job was going to be?
No, since she doesn't make that much money, I was just happy with whatever she gave me, that's all.
Mr. Marr, you're full of baloney, sir. Absolutely, positively, 100% full of baloney. If something doesn't make sense in this world, Mr. Marr, it's not true. If something makes sense, it's usually true. What makes sense is you having a discussion with your daughter and saying you think your mom would go half with me on a car for you, and giving her an inflated amount of $800 because that would have covered the tags and the registration, whatever it was to get it on the road. And she going to her mother and saying, would you do that? And her mother said, sure. And her mother hands you a check for $400. You don't even ask what it's for. You ask, don't know. It's for the swimming pool. It's for the liner. It's for the work. It's for the, I don't know what this is for. Thank you very much for the check. Then you register the car in your girlfriend's name. What happens to her $400 when you take back the car?
I didn't register the car.
She registered the car.
Right, because I wrote out the check for the $700, which I have, and I paid for everything else, including the insurance.
Then you got it, Miss Palmucci. He scammed you out of $400.
Who scammed me out of $400?
He did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Because he got paid $400. So if you wrote out the entire check of $700 plus putting tags and registration on the car, then your boyfriend scammed you out of $400 because he got half of it from his ex-wife, which was supposed to pay
either
for
way,
the car.
the money comes out of a joint checking account, which him and I have, so he didn't scam me out of anything, because that's also where the check is deposited.
Yeah.
Into the account that we both have.
Let me see everything, please. I want to see all the paperwork, please. Going to resolve this right away.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
These two people decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation between him...
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful.
And later today...
Things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not?
Somebody offers me money. Who am I to say no?
A creep.
Pamela Marr claims her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, illegally titled a Chevy Cavalier in her name Pamela says the car was supposed to be a gift to her daughter, Ashley.
Why is the certificate of title all mangled?
Because she attempted to take it from my house and tore it in doing that.
Where's the car now?
In my driveway.
Who drives it?
Nobody right now.
Why not?
It's not registered and insured.
Does it still drive?
Yeah, it still
there's
drives.
nothing wrong with it.
Oh, good. You want to give him $350 for this car?
Sure.
Yes. Good, because that's all they paid for. They said they paid
In addition
$700.
to the insurance, the registration, the title, the amount that I had to have it towed in order to get the vehicle back.
Shouldn't have done that. Because
well,
you didn't get
the only
whole
other
story.
choice that I was given by the police department was that I should file a
You didn't
complaint
get the
of
whole
theft.
story, madam. The whole story was these two people have a child together. They decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation between him...
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful. You got yourself in the middle of it, and you shouldn't have. But she's going to give you $350. You get the other $400 from him, because that's what she paid him for the car, and you're going to sign over the title to her right now.
I can't sign the title until after the other case goes to court.
What other case?
There's another case that's going to court on the 14th of November.
For what?
Her claim against him for assault.
Her claim against him for assault?
Here's the paperwork. You want to see that
Can
too?
I see it, please? It has nothing to do with the title to the car.
It does. It's in there. It says that she went there and that she attempted to get the title to the car.
I gotcha. We'll give you a copy of this tape. You take it, you show it, and you indicate to the judge who hears that case, if a judge is going to hear that case, that you were directed to, and you have agreed and acknowledged to follow my direction. You're going to sign this over to her, and she's going to give you $350. Bird, have her sign it right now. You created a whole lot of trouble, Mr. Marr, by not being honest with the women in your life. Sign it.
Tell her sign here.
You have now purchased the car yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
She gets $350. Now she's whole because she's going to take his $400 because they have a joint bank account. You got it?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's ruined a good relationship he had with his 3 daughters. He has no relationship with them now. It's just really, really sad that he would do this to his own daughters.
She'd rather go the avenue of making up lies and causing a problem between people. That's the results that she gets.
It's his fault. He ruined everything with me and my sisters, and there's going to be nothing more.
They want to continue to cause friction. That's their loss.
There's going to be no friction.
He's been causing friction for years.
Dawson is suing the mother of her granddaughter's friend, Yolanda Paul, for the cost to fix her car. Eleanor says Yolanda's son, 17-year-old Ajon Hart, drove it without permission and wrecked it.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 222 on the calendar in the matter of Dawson versus Paul. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Dawson, Miss Paul's son was living with you at a time when he was having some difficulty at home.
That's correct.
You're going to tell me how that came about in a moment. But while he was living with you, he drove your car and he damaged the car. You believe his mother is responsible for the damage that he did to your car. His mother says you should have sent him home when she told you to send him home. That's your defense. Well, there's more to it than that, but we'll get to that in a minute. When did Mrs. Paul's son come to live with you?
It was toward the end of April 2006.
Tell me how that came about.
He just showed up at my house one night, and it was probably...
Is he a friend of one of your children's?
He's a friend of my granddaughter's, Ashley. It was about 11:30 that evening, and he just showed up unexpectedly, told me that he had been put out of his home, he had no place to go. Could he please spend the night with me? I was pretty reluctant, but I said, you know, what happened? And he told me that there was a big fight at home, and he had just been put out.
Did you call his mother?
I didn't.
You should have.
I didn't have his mom's number.
Did you ask him for his mother's number?
You know, actually, I didn't.
Well, but that would have been the right thing to do. How old is he?
He's
17. He was 17, so he's a minor. So before you take a minor's word as to what has happened that causes him to come to your house 11:30, I would just have, for future reference, and for those of you out there in cyberspace, you call the mother and you say, what happened? And he's here. Don't worry about him. If you have no objection, I'll let him spend the night here, but he's safe. So you let him spend the night. Go ahead.
I did, and I immediately called SAC PD, who advised me, and and it was my intention anyway to call CPS. So that's what I did. The emergency CPS worker told me that I would receive a call the following day. And I did receive a call the following day. Explained the circumstances to the CPS worker. She advised me that she would be contacting his mother and she would get back in touch with me.
Okay, now that was April. Until what date did he live with you?
Sometime in May.
Beginning, middle?
I think it was toward the middle.
So he stayed with you for about 2 weeks?
A little over 2 weeks, maybe about 3.
And had you been in touch with his mother during that period of time?
I had not been in touch with his mother.
At all?
Not at all.
So she never spoke to you directly or indirectly?
Actually, the only time I spoke with her was when we were on a 3-way conversation with an officer from the Missing Persons Bureau in Sacramento.
At that time, did she tell you to send him home?
The officer?
No,
Yeah.
his mother.
Yes, I was always willing to send him home.
No, did she tell you she wanted him home?
She did, I believe, at that time.
Okay. And he did not go home?
I was having a problem getting him out of my house.
Fine. When was the accident with your car?
May 7th.
Tell me about that.
I received a phone call from my daughter. She was moving and she needed help, and she asked us to come over and help her. In fact, I believe she had told Ajan that if he helped, she would pay him like $100.
Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And so we were packing and moving things in and out of the truck and going from the old apartment to the new apartment.
So, I understand. Go ahead.
Okay. So, somewhere around 2 in the afternoon, we left the old apartment. We took a load over to the new apartment, dropped everything off. And when I got back to my daughter's, my car had been damaged. I was very upset. Ajan happened to be standing outside at the time, and I said, "What happened to my car?" And he said, I'm sorry. And I said, "What happened to my?" I was hysterical. And he said, I'm sorry. And I said, "What do you mean you're sorry?" He said, "I'm sorry. I damaged your car. I wrecked your car."
Where were the keys to the car?
They were in my purse inside the apartment.
You mean you left your pocketbook inside the apartment when
I
you went
did.
over to your daughter's house?
Well,
to
we
the new
all
apartment?
did.
So what you're telling me is he went to your purse, took out the keys to your car, and got into your car for some reason.
Yes, he did.
Is that what happened, sir?
No, ma'am.
Want to stand up, tell me what happened? Doesn't sound right to me.
I was helping them move, and when me and Miss Eleanor had pulled back up to the old apartment to add another load of stuff, she needed her car moved so we could move the U-Haul in. So then I asked her, did she need some help? So she handed me the keys, so I got in the car and I backed up too fast into the wall.
Not true.
Did you go into a purse and take out the keys?
No, she handed me the keys when we were inside of the
Had you
U-Haul.
ever driven that car before?
I haven't.
Do you have a driver's license?
I don't.
So why did you get behind the wheel of a car?
Because it was a basic procedure that I thought I could execute, but...
Miss Dawson, this is your problem, madam. Your problem was Miss Paul's son, according to you, was staying with you without permission. He was staying with you in violation of his mother's wishes. According to you, you had trouble getting him out of the house. You shouldn't have let him in the house to begin with until you found out what was going on. Where are you living now?
Back at home.
You're going to follow the rules now?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me?
What?
Judge, I had met his mother on a previous occasion, and she was extremely hostile toward me. So I felt reluctant about calling her the night that he showed up at my house.
Madam, then you shouldn't have let her son in your home and interfered with business. But you did that already. But now he's been in your home 2 weeks. He is under your control. He is a minor under your control. Let me put it to you this way, Miss Dawson. If you had left your keys in a place where he could get them, and even if he took the keys without your permission, it would still be your responsibility. And if you left the keys in a situation where he could get the keys and he injured himself, you would be responsible for his injuries. He's a minor. His mother's not responsible for his injuries because, according to you, when you had a 3-way conversation with the police, his mother said, "I want you to send him home."
That was after he had damaged my car.
So you mean after he damaged your car, you continued to let him stay with you?
She was on a cruise at that time.
Just a second. You continued to let him stay with you?
Yes, ma'am.
No, Miss Dawson.
Excuse me, Judge Judy. She was on a cruise. She was out the country.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This child was living under your control.
How could I be responsible being a good Samaritan? He told me he was being abused.
And later today,
the mother put it out for a garage sale, and she was going to sell it to a stranger. Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Yes,
well, I
it
believe
is,
that that's true, Miss Bellinger, because I'm looking at your face.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eleanor Dawson claims 17-year-old Ajon Hart drove her car without permission and wrecked it. Ajon and his mother Yolanda claim Eleanor handed him the keys.
You assumed the responsibility for this minor, and you assumed the responsibility of all of his actions when he was with you. You shouldn't have done that, Miss Dawson. And you certainly, understanding that, should not have left your keys, if I believe you, that you left your pocketbook in an apartment that was being emptied and went to another location, if I believe that.
The apartment wasn't totally empty, Judge.
I said that was being emptied.
Okay.
And you left your purse and your valuables in this apartment that was being emptied, that contained the keys, and he took the keys without your permission to go someplace. I don't know if I believe that. But even if it's true, it's still your responsibility.
Judge.
It's your responsibility.
2 times this month, he's taken his mother's car without permission.
Listen to me. That's not my problem. That's his mother's problem, if he's living under her roof. He's living under your roof, and if you know that that's a problem, you're not supposed to leave your keys in a situation. Listen to me. You're not supposed to leave your keys in a situation where a minor can get hold of the keys and take your car without your permission.
Judge Judy, I had no reason not to trust him.
Good.
None.
It doesn't make any difference. Bottom line is, this child was living under your control. You, therefore, are responsible for him, not his mother.
How could I be responsible being a good Samaritan? He told me he was being abused, Judge. He had come over.
Miss Dawson, you're not getting it. You don't have a legal leg to stand on because you were standing in lieu of a parent when you assumed that responsibility. And it's your responsibility to see to it that he doesn't do anything wrong and that he doesn't get hurt. If he's hurt while he's living in your home, it's your responsibility, not his mother's. And if he causes damage to property while he's living in your home, especially without his mother's permission, it's your responsibility, Miss Dawson. I know you don't like the answer, but your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rorick versus Blackshear. Step forward.
23-year-old Elizabeth Rorick is suing her former friend, Marcus Blackshear, for unpaid rent and for destroying 3 picture frames.
Miss Rorick, you knew the defendant from high school, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And he moved away, then moved back to town, and the two of you decided to room together. Is that right?
That's correct.
You were just roommates?
Yes.
Did you move into an apartment together, or did you already have an apartment?
We actually moved in the same day together.
Were you both on the lease?
No.
Just you?
Just
One
me.
bedroom apartment or 2 bedroom?
1 bedroom.
Where was Mr. Blackshear sleeping?
We shared a room.
So you were living together as a couple?
As friends.
As friends?
Yes.
Were you sharing a bed?
We were sharing a bed.
That's an interesting friendship. But the arrangement was that you would split the expenses.
Yes.
And Mr. Blackshear promptly lost his job, or didn't have a job.
He didn't have a job. Neither one of us had a job when we first moved in.
Well, how'd you expect to pay rent?
I had saved up money over the summer because I anticipated moving to Long Beach.
What was the rent?
The rent was $10.15.
How long did Mr. Blackshear live with you?
He moved out July 24th.
And you moved in when?
September 1st was technically our first day.
First 3 months, Mr. Blackshear did not pay rent. That he agrees. Correct, sir?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to a certain degree. I agree with that.
Well, you said that in your complaint, in your answer.
Like, I didn't start actually paying rent until November, and I moved in September.
That's incorrect. Actually, he started working in the middle of November. So
Mr. Blackshear, your answer, sir, says that you didn't pay the first 3 months' rent.
Well, September, October, so it should only been the first 2.
That's incorrect.
For the first few months, I paid no rent. That's what you said. But you say the majority of the items in the home were mine, and I paid a great deal of money to get our apartment livable. I owe her nothing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth Rorick claims former friend Marcus Blackshear owes for rent and destroying her property. Marcus is countersuing for half the cost of a TV.
Okay, so you didn't pay her for the first 3 months. So that's $1,500.
It's $1,522.50.
Why didn't you pay her, sir?
Well, at the time when I had moved in, I didn't have a job. I wasn't completely broke at that point in time. You know, upon moving down there, I met a friend. I was able to get some real nice furniture and some things for the house at a cheap price. So I was putting funds towards that and, you know, towards other things in the house.
Then you say that he broke 3 picture frames when you had an argument. When?
July 24th.
Go ahead.
Came home from work. He had paid me $50 short of the July's rent. And he said that he was going to pay me $50 less because he decided to make the living room his room. I didn't agree to that, but he just gave me that rent. So later on, he said, you know, I do owe you the $50, and I will give that to you. When I came home from work July 24th, he said that he would give it to me like the next week, which was that Monday. I asked him about it, and he struck up an argument, didn't understand why he needed to give it to me if he was sleeping in the other room. I told him that, you know, you agreed to give it to me, and, you know, he ends up giving it to me eventually. And prior to that, he had asked if he could stay another month to continue to save up money, and we had agreed upon it. So when this debate came about the $50, I said, I think it would be best for you just to leave at the end of this month, the end of July, instead of staying an additional month, because I'm tired of, you know, bickering. And when I said that, he became irate, and I took the clothes out of my drawer in my room. He had his clothes in there, and I threw them on the floor. I said, get them out of my room. And he said, oh, you want to throw things? So he picked up, I had 2 glass candles. He threw the candles at the wall, thus breaking the pictures.
But you threw his clothes on the floor first.
I did throw his clothes on the floor, but I threw his clothes on the floor to get them out of the room. I didn't damage anything. They were sweatpants. I threw them on a carpet.
It was more than sweatpants. It was everything in those drawers. Socks.
Well, you both lost your temper.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I agree. I did lose my temper. I did.
You both lost your temper.
Yeah, I completely agree to that. No, but I mean, I didn't damage anything. I didn't destroy his property.
Hey, when you lose your temper, you lose your temper.
We had an argument. I didn't destroy any property.
You lost your temper. He lost his temper. The property that you're complaining about is not very expensive property. You say that it's worth $100. They're not even worth $100, but that's what happens. Ms. Rorick, listen to me carefully. That's what happens when you lose your temper. You took his clothes. He says you disrespected his property. You took his property, threw it on the floor. So he picked up something of yours, and he threw it on the floor or the wall, and it broke your things. That's too bad. Yep. All right, but you won't listen to me. You owe her $1,522 for rent. Now, you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for half the money that was invested for a television set.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the television set purchased?
I think it was sometime around beginning of June.
June of
06.
How much was it?
It was $290. I work at the store that I bought it from. It was a floor model, so we got a nice discount on it.
Who paid for it?
We actually went half on the TV.
Is that right?
50-50.
Yes, we did.
And who has the television?
I do.
Okay. So?
The agreement was that when we purchased the TV, he said that when he moves out, he would like to keep the TV and he would give me half, which is $145.
But
when he left the TV and he did not come back and give me the $145. He came back a week later and asked me to give him $145 for the TV.
How much? Just a second now. Listen, you know, this is not rocket science here. I went to school many, many years, so I can do really complicated cases. This is not so complicated.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay. How many televisions do you have in the house?
2.
Where are they?
One in the living room and one in the bedroom.
And how large is the one in the bedroom?
I believe maybe 27 inches.
How many television sets do you want in the house?
2.
You want the big one that's there?
Yes.
And the little one in the bedroom?
Yes.
Then you have to pay him for the big one that he paid half for.
That's fine.
Great. So I'm going to deduct $145 from the $1,522, which leaves $1,377. That's what he owes you for the rent. Clear, sir? Nobody has to pay for you. You work, she works, you're 2 young people. When you start working, you should have started paying her back for the rent that she paid when you weren't working.
Yeah, I was just under the impression that...
I don't care about your impression. Right. Your impressions mean zippo, squat to me. What I'm telling you is what is reasonable and what is common sense. What's common sense is that you would have said to her at some point, listen, I don't have the rent. As soon as I start working, I'll pay you for the rent. And you started working, and you did pay her for the rent, but you didn't pay her what you owed her. You're not that good looking. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,377. That's all.
Close are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
This is unreal. I don't owe her that money.
It was just 7 long years, and it finally came to a head.
That's what the judge ruled. You know, I have no choice but to abide by that.
Have everything in writing, so there has no dispute, even no discussion.
We just got tired of living with each other. You know, that just worn itself out.
I'm glad it's over.
I hope she just want to end all of this so we can just continue with our lives and just move on without all of it.
Lisa Ray is suing her daughter's fiancé, 27-year-old Jeffrey Browning, for the balance on a vehicle he wrecked. Jeffrey says fixing the car is not his responsibility.
All rise. Seated.
Mrs. Ray, this is your daughter's boyfriend. Are they still together?
Yes, they are.
And this is your daughter?
Yes, she is.
Are they living together?
Yes, they are.
Are you on speaking terms with your daughter?
No, ma'am.
For how long?
It's been about 5 weeks since I've spoke with her.
Is it all over this car accident?
It's over the car accident and also over them getting back together and him not letting me see my granddaughter and turning her against me.
Tell me your name.
Wesley Hart.
According to your complaint, Miss Ray, Mr. Browning was driving your car and had an accident. There was a substantial amount of damage done to the car. From what I gather, you claim that Mr. Browning was supposed to purchase the car and had agreed to purchase the car and make the payments on the car at the time he was driving it. Mr. Browning says that there was never an agreement to purchase the car. It's sort of a convoluted defense. I haven't figured it out yet. Who has possession of the car?
The car is sitting in front of their house.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. She has a key.
Has it been fixed?
No, ma'am.
When was the accident?
July 14th.
You were driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else in the car?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing driving the car?
She had loaned it to us while my car was in the shop.
How long had you been driving it?
Approximately 2.5 weeks.
I loaned it to my daughter for her and my granddaughter to drive.
Okay. Leslie.
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to this incident with the car, were you on good terms with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a child with this man?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever break up with him?
We were separated.
Well, separated is a term that they use when they talk about marriage. You're not married to him. He's your boyfriend. So you broke up. And why did you break up?
We had gotten into a fight.
Where were you when you got into this fight?
We were in our home.
That you shared together, the two of you, with the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call the police?
No, I didn't. My mother did.
Did your mother call the police because of something that you told her?
No, ma'am. She had called the police because he was coming back from her house trying to see me and the baby.
Well, tell me about this.
We had gotten into a fight. I left and went to my mother's. We went shopping, went back to her house. He showed up, and my mom called the cops because he was coming onto her property. And the cops showed up, and she filed a criminal restraint for him not to trespass on her property. He went home, and later that night, me and her and my stepdad went back to my house to get my stuff, and the cops were then called again.
Why?
Because he had changed the locks and would not let me in the house to get my stuff.
And when did you get back together again?
About a week and a half later.
What was the fight about?
It was just over us not having the money for something, and I wanted to get something for the baby that we couldn't afford then. I got upset, and it was just very frustrating and stressful over the money issues.
Did he ever put his hands on you?
No, ma'am.
Did he?
The night we went back to the house to get the things, yes, he slammed her through the garage door out into the garage.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
It threw her. It threw her. She had gone into the garage. She remembered the combination, and she raised the garage door up, and he was hiding in the house. We didn't believe that he was there. And when she found out the locks were changed and got through the garage, she opened the inside garage door to go in the house, and she was halfway through that door. And he met her at that door, and he slammed it so hard that she flew out halfway into the garage.
That's a lot.
And he got into my face and was calling me all kinds of names, threatening. He told her, "Get out of here, I'm going to call the cops." And I said, "I'll beat you to it." And I picked up the phone and called.
Then they got back together again.
Unfortunately.
And then the person that you blame for all your trouble is your mother.
For our trouble? No. He blamed himself for it and went and got counseling. And
You mean in a day or two he got some counseling?
yes, the day I left him, the next day, he went to see somebody for his anger.
So he has an anger problem.
Yes.
Leslie, been in the business for a long time. How old are you?
I'm 20.
Your Honor.
How old? Shh. How old are you, Mr. Browning?
27.
How many children do you have?
1.
Miss Browning, raise your right hand. Tap him on the shoulder. I want you to look at him. Now look at me. 10 years from now, you're not going to remember what he looks like.
Okay.
That's always going to be your mother. That's always the home that you're going to be able to go to if you have trouble. That's always the place where your daughter, you have a daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Where your daughter's going to be able to go if she needs something. Forever. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
52% of the marriages in this country terminate in divorce. You know what that says for the almost marrieds or just living togethers? You know what that says for the almost marrieds just living together who have had to call the police on the other side? You know what that says? That says in 10 years, you're not going to remember his face. Only if he is a good father and comes periodically to see his child, only then. But as far as waking up next to him, not going to happen. So if you're making a choice between someone who has to go to anger management classes when you're not even married, when you're supposed to be at the best time of your life together, and he's got to go to anger management classes because you say he's got anger management issues, that doesn't get any better. Leslie, do you think I'm a smart lady?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to trust me on that. So if you cut your mother off, that's the height of stupidity. Because you ran home to your mother when you had a problem with him, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you may have issues with your mother, because all girls have issues with their mothers. But that's who you ran to for your safe haven. If he's trying to cut you off from your mother, and for some reason you're not letting her see this baby, you don't want me to think you're dumb, do you?
No.
That would be the dumbest thing you could do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me, sir. If what you are attempting to do is to drive a wedge between this young lady and her mother, that would be the height of stupidity.
And later today,
we heard a really loud popping sound. It was so loud I thought it was gunshot. My husband and I started running towards it. So I was like, why are we running towards this?
My question exactly.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Ray claims her daughter's fiancé, Jeffrey Browning, owes for payments on a vehicle he wrecked.
Now, Mr. Browning, I'm not going to waste any more time, sir. You were driving this car, you were alone. I don't care whose fault it is. When you make a mistake and have an accident with somebody else's property, you fix it, or you fix it to the best of your ability. Now, the best of your ability requires you to give Miss Ray $1,000, which is her insurance deductible. Period. End of discussion. Now, once she has the car fixed, it's never going to be the same again. That's too bad, because that's one of the risks that you take. Put your hand down. That's one of the risks that you take when you lend your property. That your daughter, who has acted irresponsibly in the past, because certainly she's 20 years old, and how old is this child that she has?
She's 4.5 months.
4.5 months?
I haven't seen her in 5 weeks.
Well, maybe your daughter will change that now. Maybe she'll listen.
There's several reasons that we will not let her see our daughter. This is coming from a woman who wished a miscarriage at about 6 months of the pregnancy.
Not true.
This is coming from a woman who told me to question the paternity of my child. I have this all documented.
Listen to me, sir. If what you are attempting to do is to drive a wedge between this young lady and her mother, that would be the height of stupidity.
No, ma'am, I told her that she needs to work on the relationship.
Very good. And I just want you to recognize that when you and Leslie had a fight, she ran home to her mother. And when she wanted to come to the house to get some of her property, she brought her mother. You owe her $1,000. Shh, quiet. Listen to me. He's not paying off your car.
The car was my daughter's car to begin with, and she paid on it for 3 years and then brought it back and dumped it on me when he bought her a Jeep Grand Cherokee. He bought her that so he could take it away from her every time he got angry with her.
That's her problem. She's 20 years old. You now have your deductible. You are whole. Period. End of discussion. That's all. Thank you.
Ladies, excuse you. Step out.
It's hard that I don't see my granddaughter. I can't make her choices for her. She's going to have to fall on her own.
She hates the fact that I refused to let her see my daughter because when I was staying with her, she would not let him see her. She was controlling me.
He's a liar, a manipulator.
I don't let her mother manipulate things.
She's just mad that I moved back home with him, that we're getting married.
I hope my daughter...
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, why do you think Miss Andrews would have been interested in that?
Because of my good looks.
Excuse me.
Oh, shut up.
Yes, ma'am.
Speak not.
Yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jolie Andrews is suing her former friend, 23-year-old Anthony Sellers, for a loan. Anthony claims Jolie is infatuated with his good looks. Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to JudgeJudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
He'll take your money and run, among other things.
I'm just never going to show up there no more.
I'm very happy. He got what he deserved.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hanson versus Goldman. Step forward.
20-year-old Amanda Hanson is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Renan Goldman, for unpaid rent and bills. Renan claims he's paid what he owes.
Is this your mom?
Yes, it is.
One face. You wake up one morning and you look in the mirror and you say, when did I become my mother? Happens to all of us. Listen, Miss Hanson, this man used to live with you.
Yes, he
was
did.
your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, you moved into an apartment. The apartment was a very expensive apartment, more than the two of you could afford on one job. The whole idea was for you to get two jobs each so that you could afford this very palatial apartment that you decide to rent. According to you, Mr. Goldman had a problem not only getting two jobs, he had a problem holding on to one job. And you finally got fed up and moved out. But because he had not paid his fair share of the rent, you had an agreement with him that he would pay you $200 a month.
Yes.
Until the debt was fulfilled. He made a couple of payments and then stopped. So far, is that your case?
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad my memory is relatively intact. Mr. Goldman says that he did, in fact, have an agreement with you to pay for half of the rent and half of the utilities. He did, in fact, pay the utilities, and he gave you a check each and every month that you were living in the apartment for his half of the rent. Correct, sir?
Correct.
Can I see the copies of the checks that you gave to her, sir?
Yes, you can.
I'd like to see them. When did you move into the apartment?
Beginning of November.
And when did you move out?
I moved out June.
So you lived there November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 7 months. And what was the rent?
$1,305.
So you should have given us $652.50 per month, correct?
Correct.
Let's see what rent checks we have. November, $500. Well, that's not $650. Then in December, you gave her $440. It's also not $652.
Correct.
So let's see how much you actually gave her, because this is what your rent is. That's what it is. So far, sir, you owe her $1,602 in rent. That's the difference between what you gave her and what you owed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to JudgeJudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now, in August of '05, you gave her $200. Is that right?
In check form. And then there were 3 payments of $200 after that.
Is that right?
2.
2 payments of $200 each?
Yes. He paid me in September and then in November. He skipped October.
So we're going to deduct that from this. You still owe her $1,002, sir, for rent.
There were months where I gave her cash for rent.
That's too bad. That comes into the category of too bad. These are your bills.
Correct.
These are your checks. You owe her $1,002. What else?
I just want the money that I'm owed. I have copies of all the checks that I wrote through my account.
I don't care. When two people decide to play house together,
yes,
courts don't like to get involved. This is not a marriage. If you set up your finances so that you muddy them all up, we will try to simplify it as easily and quickly and expeditiously as possible. That suggests to people that if you're going to live together, work out a financial arrangement that ultimately will not involve the courts. Mm-hmm. What he owes you is $1,002 for his share of the rent. Clear?
Okay.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,002. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Back, she got a DUI.
Oh, DUI? The DUI costed me $300.
She is now pregnant.
Me being pregnant? Yeah, no, I'm pregnant and I'm happy and I'm going to hopefully be getting married within the next year when the
Third parties as well.
I don't need money for this.
Be careful, watch your back, and make sure you keep the dog.
Don't move in with someone if you don't trust.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Pittman versus Ariza. Step forward, please.
Joel and Wendy Pittman are suing former friend Fabian Ariza for damaging their SUV during a party. The Pittmans claim a drunken Fabian pushed a fellow partygoer into the vehicle.
You two people are married to each other?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been married?
3 years tomorrow.
According to your complaint, there was a party. Was the party at your house?
It was.
Defendant was an invited guest at the party. It's your claim that he became drunk, and during the course of an altercation with another guest, he dented your car by pushing the other guest into your car, causing the dent. That's your claim.
That's correct.
So I have a couple of questions. When was this party?
April 22nd.
How many people were at the party?
15 and 20, off and on.
Did everybody bring alcohol, or was alcohol served at the party?
Both.
Did the defendant bring his own alcohol?
He did.
What kind of alcohol did you bring?
I just brought a bottle of whiskey. Everybody was drinking, though. Everybody there it was a party. We were just going to have a good time.
Listen, if I want more of an answer, I'll ask you. Right now, I just asked you one thing. What kind of liquor did you bring?
Just a bottle of whiskey.
What kind of whiskey?
Old Turkey.
You were asking me? That was a question. I don't know. I didn't bring any.
It's been a little while, I'm sorry.
Where did you get it from?
I bought it from a liquor store. I'm 24. I can legally buy and drink liquor.
I wasn't accusing you of anything illegal,
I'm sorry.
sir.
Sorry.
I just asked you where you got it from. You bought it at a store. And what did you drink at the party, Mr. Rosario?
I drank on the bottle of whiskey.
Just your own liquor?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't drink any of his liquor?
No, ma'am.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Otherwise, it would have been his fault. Now tell me what happened.
He arrived at around 11:30, and everything was going good. A little bit later, Sam arrived. That was the first time they'd met, and they got along pretty good at first. They kind of roughhoused him a little bit eventually, and I guess...
Don't tell me what you guessed. I only want to know what you saw.
I saw that he kind of got tired of roughhousing and started maybe taking it a little too serious. And at one point, he pushed Sam into the wall outside of our house. And Sam got up and left. And a little bit later, he arrived back and started apologizing to everyone.
Why was he apologizing? Because he was drunk?
Yeah, because he was drunk and because he was apologizing for the scene that he'd caused and offered to shake his hand and said, you know, we're cool, everything's good, I'm sorry. And he wasn't real receptive of the apology, and he didn't want to. You know, he was still pretty upset. So he walked off the porch into the front yard where he met Sam. And as he approached, Sam kind of opened his arms like he was almost like he was going to hug him. And when they got to that point, he just kind of shoved him off and into the passenger door of my vehicle.
You have a picture of the vehicle?
I do.
I'd like to see it. It's a good shove. You saw the damage?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I didn't think Sam was very amusing or entertaining. I didn't like him when I met him at all. And when he wanted to roughhouse or anything like that, I wasn't playing. And I made that clear because he came over and me and Billy were talking. As we were talking, he kept coming up trying to make snide comments and make little cheap jokes. And I played along at first, and then still I thought, okay, man, that's pretty cool. Okay, fine, funny, you're a funny guy. And eventually I told him, listen, just stop, just go away, bother somebody else. And finally it got to a point where I just said, listen, shut your mouth if you know it's good for you. And at that point, he tried to grab me. Before he put his hands, he said, let's see what you're going to do then. Before he put his hands on me, I pushed him back. That's when he hit the wall. He left, he came back, tried to apologize. He made me mad after he came back and tried to apologize because he said, it's okay, man, I'm not mad. And I took offense to that because I didn't expect him to be mad. He should be apologizing to me. He's the one that instigated. He instigated everything.
Mr. Ariza, you pushed him into a wall.
He was trying to grab
Listen to me. You pushed him into a wall. If you don't like what he says, that's words. You have no right to put your hands on anybody. Ever.
I was under the impression.
Ever. So you put your hands on him
Yes,
without
ma'am.
cause, pushed him into a wall.
He was
fell
about
down.
to put his
I'm
hands on me
speaking.
first.
That's what you told me. So when he came back, he said, listen, it's cool, I'm not mad. You still felt that he should apologize to you because he was being verbally stupid.
Either way, I didn't want an apology. I didn't want to converse with him any further. And everyone told me just to drop the issue. And I didn't want to. But eventually I said, oh, okay, fine. And I went to shake his hand. And that's when he actually grabbed me. And at that point, we stumbled a little bit. And I turned around and I tried to push him off. And it took a minute. And I finally did just push him off. And he fell into the truck. I did push him, yeah. But I didn't know the Tahoe was there. And
Well, the Tahoe didn't appear from the sky.
I wasn't really paying too much attention to anything else.
You weren't paying too
with
much
the guy wrapped
attention
around
because,
me.
sir, you weren't paying too much attention because you were drunk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You were so drunk that according to this answer that I read, sir, you were angry at the plaintiff because you had had an arrangement with the plaintiff to sleep over at his house.
I didn't want to have to drive drunk
I'm
later.
speaking. The answer is yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And he did tell you to leave after you damaged his car. You got into your car because you were drunk, and your car went into a ditch and was damaged, right?
Yes, ma'am. And that's one reason I was surprised that he brought this to court, because I didn't sue him for what happened to me.
How could you sue him? For your stupidity?
I figured we were even Stevens because...
I know that that's what you think, but I'm telling you, You're not thinking with what God gave you to think with. You're thinking with another part of your anatomy. Nobody forced you to get into your car and drive home. You don't drink and drive.
Well, it's pretty irresponsible of him to try and send me home anyway.
You just told me you're 24 years old, and I'm old enough to buy liquor. I'm old enough. I can go in. I'm not doing anything wrong with buying liquor. He forced you to get into your car?
He didn't force me, but at the time I wasn't really thinking that I had any other option.
You weren't thinking, sir, because you were drunk. And when you get drunk, you do stupid things.
They were drunk, too. They were doing plenty of stupid things on their own.
Absolutely, sir. We're not here talking about what one stupid drunk does as opposed to another. This stupid drunk caused this damage. Let me see the estimate, please. I'm finished with him.
Your Honor.
Are you another stupid drunk?
I wasn't drinking that night.
Good, then you can be quiet. I hate drunk cases. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,027. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was ridiculous. I think it was kind of it's all one big joke. It's like I'm the punchline.
There were about 20 people there. It was hard to keep an eye on everyone.
I get this all the time because I am tall. He said, and he's a pretty short guy. He said, man, you're pretty tall. How tall are you? And I just heard that 1,000 times.
I don't think asking somebody how tall they are is instigating.
I got up and I told everybody what I had to think, what I thought about that, and I drove away.
28-year-old Nicole St. Marie is suing ex-fiancé Michael Diaz for the cost to pay off his attorney fees.
Come to order, all rise. The parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Miss St. Marie, you and Mr. Diaz lived together for how long?
Roughly about 3.5 years.
And at some point, I gather, you purchased a home.
Yes, I did.
When?
I purchased a home in October of '01. I bought it on my own.
Just a second. Mm-hmm. Were you dating at that point?
Yes, we were.
Okay. When you purchased the home, where had you been living just prior to that?
Prior to that, in an apartment with my son.
Not with him?
No.
Now, when you purchased the house in October of 2001, did Mr. Diaz move in with you?
Yes, he did.
So that was the plan?
Yes.
And you put down the down payment on the house?
Yes, I did.
Fine. Was Mr. Diaz working?
Yes, he was.
What kind of work were you doing in 2001, sir?
At that point in time, I was a fire life safety supervisor.
You earning a living?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You were contributing to the household?
Absolutely.
How much?
Everything was halfway down the line.
Is that right?
No, it's not.
What wasn't?
He paid me rent, half.
Just a second. He paid you how much a month?
He paid me roughly $650 a month in rent.
Actually, I have receipts.
Just a second. Miss St. Marie, I will categorize it as whatever I want to categorize it as. I know you're going to say rent from today till tomorrow.
Yes.
You were living together. You were sharing a bedroom.
Yes.
You were sharing a life together.
Yes.
All right. So don't categorize it as rent. He was contributing to the household, according to you, $650 a month. Would he give that to you by check or cash?
By check.
Were you doing anything else in the household other than contributing this $650 a month?
Yes, ma'am. The amount does exceed $650, which I do have all the receipts on.
I'd like to see it, please. The reason for these questions will become clear, Ms. St. Marie, because it is your claim that during the course of the relationship, Mr. Diaz had some difficulty with ex-wife over child support.
It was actually child custody, ma'am.
Or child custody, whatever it was. And you needed a lawyer. And according to you, Ms. St. Marie, you loaned him the money for a lawyer.
No, I did not.
Well, in effect, you did, because you went to the lawyer, you co-signed for him to get a lawyer, and he ended up not paying, so you paid the lawyer.
Correct.
And you want him to reimburse you.
Correct.
And that was, I think, $3,500?
Correct.
He paid you some?
None.
Okay. And when was that?
That was this past December.
Okay, so you actually lived in the house for about 4.5 years.
No. He moved out in November of '04, but we were still seeing each other up until April of '05.
Did you move out in November of 2004, sir?
I'm not exactly sure the date, but I know it was roughly in that time frame. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I've got the...
Shh.
Yes, ma'am.
How much, Miss St. Marie, was your mortgage on your house?
It was roughly about $1,470.
Okay. Let me tell you what his defense is. His defense is that when you moved into the house together, while the house was purchased by you, he was making half the mortgage payment on the house, which clearly I have checks here which amount to half the mortgage payment. And it was your agreement that if anything happened between the two of you, that he was reducing your mortgage so that he would get some benefit from that should you sell the house. That's your defense, really.
Yes, ma'am.
So you walked away from the relationship without anything. You sold the house.
Mm-hmm.
What did you purchase the house for? What amount?
$165.
And what did you sell the house for?
$350.
So you had a healthy profit.
Yes.
When did you sell the house?
November of '04.
Right after he moved out.
That's why he moved out. I was trying to end the relationship for a very long time.
Oh, okay. He moved out when
And
you
he wouldn't
sold.
leave.
Just a second. He moved out when you sold the house.
Correct.
Okay. Did you have a discussion with him at that time about any profits from the house?
No.
That's a farce.
Well, tell me about the conversations, Mr. Diaz.
Our initial agreement when we bought that house was bought under her name.
Her name.
But both of our incomes at that time. It was a stated income. So they asked for my income paperwork as well.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Judge. That's
Okay. I moved out of my apartment. I moved into the apartment with her because she had a large apartment with her son. And then from there, we moved into the house. From that point on, I paid halfway down the line. The house needed a ton of work. I'm well versed in all matters, as far as contract.
I see that you paid for half the mortgage, sir.
The other checks that are at a different angle, ma'am, are also showing that I also paid for some of the electrical bills. And if you look, the writing is very neat. She physically wrote those checks out. I just signed my name to them. And it also states on those gas, water, trash bills, whatever.
You wrote out all these checks?
If my name's on, if it's in my writing, then yeah, I did.
Right. You wrote out all these checks.
For the most part, ma'am, anytime she needed something, she would fill them out.
City of Long Beach. Who lives in Long Beach?
That's where our home was.
Our residence was in the city of Long Beach at the time.
Okay. Verizon, City of Long Beach, half the house payment. This is in your
Yeah, but
handwriting.
how long do those go on for? Because
they go
for
on
3.5
years.
years, it was like pulling teeth to get money from him.
Whether it was pulling teeth or not. Listen, Ms. A. Marie, he does not have a counterclaim, but what he's saying is you had an agreement, and your agreement was that he was contributing to the household, and you were putting money into an account. So you were clearly taking the money that you wrote on his personal checks and putting it into your account.
But does he include the fact that I had credit card bills and stuff that were used for getting Christmas gifts for his son, to do birthday parties, to anything that we ever did together that went on my credit cards? I had credit card bills, but you don't see anything there that he's paying for my credit card bills.
Well,
he's
I don't know if
helping
he
out
had,
with
just
utilities.
a second, I don't know if he had any credit cards.
He doesn't.
Actually, I don't. I try to keep things, on the,
Because his credit's
paid it
horrible.
straight across.
That's why.
If you look,
That's why he couldn't get his name on the
Chrysler
house.
automobile.
she does. That was for when she got a car. I gave $1,000 down for the car.
Okay, and I put $2,500 down on your car.
Is that right?
I think it actually was $2,000.
No.
And I paid back a portion of that.
Where is your check for that?
For the paybacks?
Yeah.
I think it might have been cash or whatnot. I don't.
Now I
honestly
don't
have
believe
it.
you. Now you're talking through your hat.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You wanted him out. The relationship was.
कैसे
फोकस नहीं करा करा करें
बड़ा ही कैसे फोकस नहीं करा एचडी फुल एचडी क्लिक ना करे क्लिक ना उन्होंने फायरिंग शुरू की मैंने भी दूसरा करे इतने उनते की ना उनते हेलो इतने की ना और बात कर मरे है बड़ा कोई मसला उन्होंने बात माने कर रहे हैं उन्होंने जहां उन्होंने थी ये आना पड़ेगा ओए भाई डरा होते वो बजा है आंधी पे ये आना भाई तूला देख तो लो आंधी पे आंदा पे नहीं उम्र देख तो मोबाइल लोग की पे आंदा पे कितने मिनट पे
लेकिन मसला ये है ना हम लोग ट्रैफिक रुक सी था खाना क्योंकि ना एक खोला से ना कुछ
वो नहीं मतलब ना कुछ नहीं है
हाथ मत गिन छोड़े
ना बरे है ना कितने मिनट थी बस आ छोड़ उसमें कौन लगे ना कल तो दसे वो ना शायद हूं वाला आवे वो जरा इन्हें भजन तुर के तो इतना खोल के टुरांदा फिरना है बाबा असा गजल दे वाला थी शायद वो आवे कल मैं गुडी टेज में थई खड़ा हूं क्या ठीक है कहां दे के ये काम में छोड़ करने के बाद तेरे है लगता है बनाना हां तेरे है लगता है वो ये लुगा कर रहा है वो मेरे को नवा है ना हाल है ना कट्टे छट्टे दी हां वो बन हुए वाला जो आड़ो होंगे वो जरा बिया बड़ा है वो गिर गया वो कट्टे छट्टे दी नहीं नहीं वो नक्चो चंगा काम करवाई गड़ा ना बेकार बार में यार बोकल पूरा थिया गड़ा कैसे गाना उन्हें मांगे आगू बने तो मुंह बड़ा बस ठीक है पर कट्टे करने मन जाऊं ना दिनो आरो दो क्लिप बने सिर्फ सारे रला के हफ्ता डेटा हफ्ते और मैं सारा हफ्ते इन दा मैं यो काम मत खोती थे घोड़ा पालना हां खोती तो खोता या खोती तो